"You're a good starter boyfriend, not a forever one," she said with a smile. So I ended it right there. Now she's on her third divorce before 30, and I'm thriving. Hey viewers, before we move on to the video, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button if you want to see more stories like this. Thanks. I used to think loyalty was the most important thing in a relationship. You find someone, you support them, you grow together, and eventually you build a future. That's how I was raised, and that's the standard I tried to live by when I was with Madison. I met her when I was 23. She was one of those people who just walked into a room and immediately had everyone's attention. Pretty, loud, charismatic, always surrounded by friends. I'm the opposite, quiet, practical, the kind of guy who works a steady job, pays his bills, and doesn't need to be the center of every conversation. Somehow, she liked that about me in the beginning. She told me I grounded her, that she felt safe with me. At first, things were good. We moved in together after a year, and I took on a bigger share of the rent because she was still finishing up her degree. I didn't mind. I figured we were building towards something long-term, and I believed in her. When she struggled with job applications, I stayed up late helping her with her resume. When she bombed an interview and came home crying, I cooked her favorite dinner and told her she'd get the next one. But slowly, cracks started to show. Madison's friends had a different view of relationships than I did. They liked the idea of drama, of upgrading boyfriends, of always chasing something more exciting. They teased her constantly. "When are you going to trade Ethan in for someone spontaneous?" Or, "Ethan's cute, but don't you ever get bored?" Madison would laugh it off, but not in a way that reassured me. It was always half laugh, half smirk, like she was entertaining the thought. She started making little comments too. If I suggested staying in for a quiet night, she'd say, "You're so predictable." If I tried to surprise her with something thoughtful, like planning a weekend trip to the mountains, she'd roll her eyes. "Everyone goes there. Can't you think of something more exciting?" I told myself it was just her personality. She liked teasing, she liked stirring the pot. But those words stuck with me longer than I wanted to admit. The thing was, I really believed in us. I believed that the stability I offered would matter more in the long run than the cheap thrill of someone who bought her drinks at a bar or posted flashy vacations on Instagram. I believed if I just kept showing up, kept proving my loyalty, she'd realize she had everything she needed right in front of her. But looking back now, I can see the truth. Madison never saw me as her equal. I was never her forever. I was just the safe option until she decided she was ready for something else. And the night she finally said it out loud, so casually, like it wasn't the cruelest thing you could say to someone who loved you, was the night everything changed. It happened on a Friday night. Madison wanted me to come out with her and a few of her friends. Normally, I dreaded those nights because the conversations always turned into gossip, drinks, and subtle digs at me, but I went anyway. I wanted to be supportive. We were at this trendy little bar downtown, the kind where you can barely hear yourself think. Madison thrived in those places. She laughed louder than anyone, told stories like she was the star of a movie, and her friends ate it up. I mostly sat back, sipping my drink, happy to just be there for her. At some point, the conversation shifted to relationships. One of her friends, already tipsy, leaned across the table and smirked. "So, Madison, is Ethan the one? Are we talking wedding bells soon?" Everyone laughed. I smiled awkwardly, expecting Madison to laugh it off and maybe say something reassuring. Instead, she clinked her glass and said with a shrug, "He's perfect for now. A good starter boyfriend." They all howled with laughter. One of her friends said, "Starter boyfriend? Like a starter home?" Madison giggled and nodded. "Exactly. Safe, reliable, good to practice with until you're ready for the real deal." I felt the air leave my chest. They were laughing like it was a harmless joke, but she'd just told an entire table of people that I was basically a placeholder. I forced a smile, but I didn't hear much of the rest of the conversation. My ears were ringing, my face hot. Later, when we were driving home, I couldn't hold it in. "Madison, what was that back there? A starter boyfriend? What's that supposed to mean?" She looked at me like I was overreacting. "Relax. It was just a joke." "No, it wasn't. You said I was practice. That I wasn't forever." "Do you really think that?" She sighed, annoyed, and turned toward me. "Ethan, come on. Don't act surprised. You know I'm not going to marry the first guy I date seriously." That's not how people do things anymore. You're safe, reliable, a good starter boyfriend, someone to learn with. But you're not forever. I thought you knew that. She said it so matter-of-factly, as if she was explaining the weather. No hesitation, no awareness of how much those words cut. I didn't respond right away. I just gripped the steering wheel tighter and stared at the road ahead. My stomach was in knots, my mind spinning. I'd given everything to her, my time, my money, my support, and she saw me as nothing more than training wheels. That was the moment something inside me snapped. I wasn't going to yell, I wasn't going to cry, I wasn't even going to argue. But I knew one thing. This relationship was over. I didn't say anything else for the rest of the drive. Madison kept scrolling through her phone like nothing happened. The silence between us was deafening, but I didn't trust myself to speak. When we got back to the apartment, she kicked off her heels, flopped onto the couch, and turned on the TV like it was any other night. I stood there for a moment, staring at her, and realized there was nothing left to talk about. She had already told me exactly how she saw me. I went to the bedroom, grabbed a duffel bag from the closet, and started packing. She noticed after a few minutes. "What are you doing?" I didn't look up. "Leaving." She sat up straight. "Wait, seriously? Over a joke?" I zipped the bag shut. "You called me your starter boyfriend, Madison. That's not a joke. That's how you really see me." She rolled her eyes, like I was being dramatic. "You're blowing this out of proportion. Everyone knows not every relationship lasts forever." "Why are you acting like I said something outrageous?" "Because I've been treating this like forever," I said quietly. "I thought we were building something together. You just told me you never saw me that way." For once, she didn't have a quick comeback. She just stared at me, mouth slightly open, like she couldn't believe I was serious. I slung the bag over my shoulder and headed for the door. She finally spoke, her tone sharp. "Fine. If you want to throw everything away over one comment, go ahead. You'll regret this." But I didn't regret it. Not for a second. I walked out without another word. That night, I turned my phone off. I didn't want to see her texts. I didn't want to hear her excuses. I didn't want to fight. For the first time in years, the noise was gone. It hurt like hell, but it was quiet. The first week was rough. Every time I reached for my phone, I had to remind myself not to unblock her. I kept replaying her words in my head. Starter boyfriend, not forever one, like a broken record. But pain has a strange way of fueling you. Instead of chasing answers from her, I started focusing on myself. I threw myself into work, taking on projects I used to put off. I hit the gym, even on days I didn't feel like moving. I cooked proper meals instead of grabbing fast food, because I didn't have to cater to her picky tastes anymore. At night, I'd lie in bed and think about everything I had done for Madison. The late nights helping her study, the bills I covered without complaint, the trips I planned that she dismissed as boring. None of it mattered to her. She had never seen me as someone to keep, just someone to use until she was ready to upgrade. And somehow, that realization gave me clarity. I wasn't her starter boyfriend. I was her last free ride. And I was done giving her one. The silence lasted longer than I expected. After I walked out, Madison tried calling a few times, but I ignored it. A few texts came in. "We need to talk. Don't do this. You're overreacting." And then nothing. I thought that was it. Honestly, I hoped it was. But people like Madison don't just let go. A couple weeks later, I heard through a mutual friend that she was already seeing someone new. Tall guy, flashy car, one of those types who loved posting his lavish lifestyle on Instagram. It stung at first, not because I wanted her back, but because it confirmed what she'd said. I really had been just a placeholder until she found her next thrill. But as time went on, I started noticing little things. Her new guy wasn't showing up in her stories as much. When he did, he was always surrounded by other women. By the 3-month mark, Madison was posting cryptic quotes about betrayal and heartbreak. Right on schedule, my phone lit up. "Hey stranger, smiling face with smiling eyes, miss you." I stared at it, laughed, and deleted it without replying. 2 weeks later, another one. "I didn't appreciate you back then. Can we talk?" I blocked her number. But Madison wasn't the type to stop there. Suddenly, mutual friends were reaching out. "Madison says she messed up. She wants to apologize. She told me you were the best thing that ever happened to her." One even said, "You should give her another chance. She's really grown." I didn't take the bait. I just said, "Glad to hear she's learning. and changed the subject. The more I ignored her, the louder she got. I started getting emails. Paragraphs of apologies, explanations, half-baked excuses. One stood out. "You know I didn't mean what I said that night. You're not just a starter boyfriend. You're the kind of man I should have married. Please, can we start over?" But the problem was, she had already said the truth when she thought I wouldn't leave. Everything after that was just damage control. The last straw came about a year later at a mutual friend's birthday party. I hadn't planned on going, but the friend insisted. Madison was there, sitting alone with a drink in her hand. She looked different, tired, like the shine had worn off. When she saw me, her face lit up like no time had passed. She came over, touched my arm, and said softly, "Ethan, I've missed you. Please, can we try again?" For a moment, the old part of me wanted to feel sorry for her. But then I remembered every late night I carried her, every sacrifice I made, every time she laughed at me for being safe. And I remembered that cruel, smug smile when she told me I was her starter boyfriend. That memory was stronger than her touch. I pulled my arm back, smiled politely, and walked away without a word. That was when I knew the power dynamic had flipped completely. I wasn't the backup plan anymore. I was the one who got away. A couple weeks after that party, Madison showed up at my apartment. I don't know how she got my new address, probably through one of those helpful mutual friends, but there she was, standing at my door with red eyes and a shaky smile. "Ethan," she said, voice breaking, "I need to talk to you. Please." I hesitated, then stepped outside and closed the door behind me. I wasn't going to let her back into my space. She launched into it right away. "I know I ruined everything. I was stupid, selfish. I didn't realize what I had until I lost it. You were the best boyfriend I ever had. I was just scared. Scared of commitment. Scared of being happy, I guess. But I've changed. I swear. If you give me one more chance, I'll spend the rest of my life proving it to you." Her words might have sounded convincing to someone else, but to me they just felt hollow. Because I remembered the smirk on her face when she called me her starter boyfriend. She hadn't said it out of fear. She'd said it out of confidence, because she believed I'd never leave. "Madison," I said, keeping my voice steady, "I don't doubt you regret losing me. But regret isn't love. And it's not enough to erase the way you treated me." Tears welled up in her eyes. "So that's it. After everything we had, you're just going to throw it away?" I shook my head. "You threw it away the moment you told me what I really was to you. I just finally had the courage to walk." She reached out like she was going to grab my hand, but I stepped back. "I hope you figure yourself out," I said quietly. "But that journey doesn't involve me anymore." I turned and went back inside, locking the door behind me. Through the peephole, I saw her standing there for a long time before finally walking away. That was the last time I ever saw Madison. In the years since, I've built a life I'm proud of. I advanced in my career, traveled to places I used to only dream about, and surrounded myself with people who actually respect me. Every now and then, someone mentions Madison in passing, but she's just a name now. A memory from a life that feels like it belonged to someone else. And whenever I think back to that night in the car, her smug little grin as she said I was just a starter boyfriend, I can't help but feel grateful. Because in the end, she was right. I was her starter boyfriend. But what she didn't realize is that she was my starter lesson, the one that taught me exactly what I would never tolerate again. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. What do you think about this story? Share it in the comments.